Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. You're listening to the Mental for Moto podcast. And we're back. Welcome to another episode of the Mental for Moto podcast. I'm your host, Pete Wolf. I'm extremely excited to introduce my in-studio guest for this episode, Steve Powell. Steve's the owner and operator of SPMX, a renowned business that specialises in suspension and engine performance, based in Cooyee-Rup, Victoria. Throughout his 30-year career in the off-road motorcycling industry, Steve has pretty much done it all. As well as his current business, he's worked as a team manager and a mechanic for a number of different factory and satellite teams. He's had a business that provided logistical and mechanical support for privateer races. And he's raced both motocross and off-road disciplines at the highest levels across the country. Steve has an absolute wealth of knowledge, and his passion for all things dirt bike related and drive for continual improvement is evident in both his work and his riding. There's little doubt that that's why he continues to be at the forefront of technological innovation when it comes to motorcycle performance and remains one of the fastest vet riders in the country. Hey Steve, welcome to the Mental for Moto studio. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, pumped to be here.
You've been in the industry for such a long time and you've worn so many hats over the years. I'm sure there's any number of things we could talk about and hopefully we'll cover a few of them over the course of the episode. So how's things been?
Yeah, we've been good, mate. Yeah, always busy. That's why we like to keep things.
Yeah, you got your fingers in a lot of different pies.
Yeah, we try to. Yeah, we try to keep relevant.
So what's sort of cooking at SPMX these days?
Look, we've got just our normal stuff that we do on the day-to-day. Like we specialise in engine and suspension, so we have a lot of that coming through. Both junior programs. We've got senior motocross programs, and we've got off-road. We've sort of branched out a little bit into the adventure market. So all in all, there's plenty to do there. That's our our main focus, but we do some maintenance and mini bikes and local stuff that sort of comes through the door as well.
Yeah, you've definitely sort of built a reputation as a high-level motorcycle mechanic, but you're probably better known as a suspension specialist. Like, how'd you get into suspension?
Well, the suspension was the thing that I fell into, by accident. Realistically, it's not something that you tend to learn. And I had the opportunity at KTM Australia to really work on a lot of suspension. At the time, look, it was well known that we had a PDS bike back in the era that I worked for KTM, and it was a little bit troublesome for our professional riders. So we were working on the bike a lot. Myself and Danny Apro, who now has his own business, Apro Motorsport, up in Sydney. But we took it upon ourselves to really try and improve the bike, and Rob Tywald was just letting us try. We had nothing to lose. So we took it upon ourselves to do a lot of testing with our riders over that period of a couple of years. And
what year was this?
We're probably talking 2000, maybe 2004, 5 and 6. So we had Daniel McCoy and we had Timmy Wigan, who was out from the US, Marmonts. Excuse if I've forgotten anyone, but that was just our motocross, supercross guys. We had off-road guys, we had super moto-dad guys. So we had a really big program back in them days. We used to take care of a lot of bikes.
Yep.
Yeah, so back then, so we were just trying to better the bike, and we got to learn what worked, what didn't. And both of us really, really enjoyed it, it was a learning curve, but both of us are still doing it now. So, there was a passion there for sure that we discovered. And we're lucky enough that it is a little bit of a niche market.
Yep.
And, it was, many, many years later, you're still doing it. And as long as you can evolve with all the different systems that are now out, suspension was it was unchanged for a long time. And then in the last 10 years, it's really evolved, and there's so many different systems that come out that it's hard to keep a handle and development on all the stuff and be up with, every make and model. So it has been difficult, but yeah, we always like a challenge.
Yeah, I know you're an agent for the WP cone valve suspension, but one of the questions I've always asked, so I've had the opportunity to ride the bikes with the WP cone valves and as well as your SPMX suspension. Obviously, so I've had a gauge between stock suspension, SPMX suspension, the cone valve stuff. What's the difference between, say, cone valve and then something like what Jet Lawrence might have in his bike?
Well, when you're talking that extreme level, there's a lot of unattainables. So that's the biggest thing is in the actual units themselves, it's all just tolerances, different materials that the stuff's made out of. But the technology, internal is, I don't know what's in there, but, they've got different systems that sometimes they run full spring fork, sometimes they're running air assist. They're running the shower stuff, I believe. But, I'm not exactly sure what's in there, but I can only imagine
it's voodoo.
It'd be next level stuff. So
yeah,
the stuff that you're riding is, with cone valve or factory shower that you can buy, factory KYB that you can buy. That sort of stuff is tolerances. Again, it's materials that the stuff's made of, the coatings. The valving and internal componentry, sometimes a little bit different, maybe bigger dampening rods and bigger pistons and stuff like that, but not a great deal of difference other than the materials over standard. And as we all know, you can purchase a set of this cone valve stuff or factory shower or whatever, and you can't quite just bolt it in the bike and go. It needs some sort of personalisation to the rider, and because they are aimed at kit level or an extreme level rider. Yeah, it's not going to work with you and I at our speeds that we run. It's just it doesn't operate that way. It's made for big impacts, high speed, and big velocity stuff. So we can't quite push it that hard.
Yeah, so it's putting a set of expensive cone valve technology suspension onto a vet rider's bike or a C rider's bike isn't overnight going to make them into an A level or pro level rider.
No, it won't. It won't make them into a pro level rider, but the comfort is there. Again, once it's personalised and set up by their tuner, they can definitely get the full effects of how good the suspension is and the materials and what it can offer. But again, as I said, it needs to go to their tuner and get set up, because it'll probably be on the firm side for most of the guys. So,
yeah, every time sort of someone asks me what's the first thing to do when they get a bike, and speaking from my own experience, I always say go get your suspension set up. It's not just sort of the hits, but the bike corners better, it handles better, you have less moments. It has such a broad impact on the way you ride and the way the bike handles. It kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was sort of more interested just to make the fatigue less, being a vet rider, and sort of I was looking at it on that basis. But yeah, the cornering was probably the biggest impact it had. How do you sort of develop the suspension to have that all round? Is that like lots of testing that you do, or?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of testing that goes involved, or that gets involved. What you said about suspension and, that it is the first stop, we agree. A lot of people go by pipes and ECUs and all these sort of things, but suspension is one that shouldn't be overlooked. And, our sport is dangerous enough as it is. If we can make it a little bit, more forgiving by just having the bike set up for the key things that you said, fatigue and the ease of handling. Bit of a catch-22. Once all that's sorted out, well, then confidence happens and we try to ride faster, and maybe that's where things start to come undone. But definitely for us, I'm lucky enough that I'm still reasonably active in riding. But we do have quite a few people out, all various different riders that we get a lot of quality feedback from. And, we can't ride every manufacturer's bike or capacity. I do my best to ride a lot of bikes and really get a feel for where the manufacturers are going with this stuff. But yeah, we rely on a lot of feedback from our customers and our rider base to help us along to build a better product.
Yeah, I think you sort of touched on something there about riding a lot of bikes. You've got that sort of broad experience. You've worked with a lot of teams with a lot of different bikes, and that sort of led you to do some bike testing, in recent months. So what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, all that's on purpose. So, I would have loved to have been a one manufacturer guy who, stayed with the team for a long time, but in my younger years, I was hungry for information and hungry to learn. So, I spent a couple of years with, a couple of different manufacturers, and I did move on. And just in recent times, I had the chance to do a little bit of ride testing for Inside Dirt, and along with an invitation from Yamaha Australia, we got to ride the new 23 YZ450. So that was a really good day down at Ride Park in Victoria. So we got to ride the bike, and again, just awesome for me to ride that bike before it hit the shelf and sort of make some notes of, what I liked and didn't like, or what we think our rider base would like to change on that bike, because we're not all professionals, and the bike was aimed at having a pretty good rider riding it. So for us, we made a couple of little changes, a couple of notes, but had the chance to ride that bike, which was really good. And just on Thursday this week, we'll have the chance to go do a launch with Sherco Australia as well.
Yep.
With all the off-road range. So we get a chance to ride, I believe at this stage, it's all the production models and maybe one or two of the actual bikes that are set up for the boys for off-road. So a few little bits and pieces, maybe suspension and a couple of engine packages to try.
Yep.
So I think that's taking place at Broadford. So really looking forward to that too. I love my off-road bikes and I've spent a little bit of time on the 300 Sherco in the last couple of years, but not across all the capacities.
Yep.
So interested to ride their 4-stroke range and some of their little small balls too are always great fun.
Yeah. And what sort of feedback do you provide and what sort of media do you provide it in? Do you have to write articles or provide feedback directly to Sherco? Like what's the purpose of the testing?
Purpose of the testing is obviously for the magazines to get it out and do a ride test. So they'll have their dedicated riders there. We'll comment on the bikes and the comparison of the bike from the year before, and then they'll put it all in their media, whether it be, social media, whether it be magazine, podcast, bike tests.
Yep.
So they'll use our information, our photos, to start, promoting their 23 range.
Yep. Just
getting the word out there and, any time that you can ride a couple of different capacities and have your opinion on that is always a good thing.
Yep. Oh, awesome. It sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. So it's probably a lot of riders' dream gig, that.
Yeah, I can't wait. I really love the ride test stuff. I'm really hoping to get involved in more and more of it. So, really enjoy it.
Yeah, fantastic. And as you sort of touched on, that's all off-road?
Yeah, I believe it's just the off-road range.
Yep.
I'm not even sure they have a motocross bike, but look, the way that company's come along in the last, 4 or 5 years, got quite popular. They were a little niche sort of boutique bike there for a little while.
Yep.
But they're getting more and more mainstream now. See a lot of them. We have a lot of them through the workshop now. So it wouldn't surprise me if they have a full-fledged motocross bike on the horizon. I don't know anything about that. I may ask them.
Yeah, yep. There seems to be a lot of that's the direction some of these off-road manufacturers are going, especially in the last sort of 12 to 24 months. So yeah, it'd be great to see a motocross Sherco if they bring them out.
Yeah, another team, another opportunity for mechanics to get involved. So yeah, it can only be a good thing for the industry.
Yeah, definitely, and riders as well.
Exactly.
Or,
right.
Quasi-factory rides. So.
Exactly. Yep.
Speaking of factory teams, you've worked with a number of factory teams over the years. So from Suzuki to Honda to KTM. How did that all play out?
Yeah, so my first factory mechanic job would come from an offer from a good friend of mine, Daryl Hurley, lives in New Zealand. He was over riding CDR Yamaha.
Yep.
Riding for Dakar for a couple of years, did really well. At the time, I was a privateer riding. He lived not too far from me at all. And we had a mutual friend, Gary Ben, who has headed up the mechanical side of CDR Yamaha for the last 2 decades. I was doing a little bit of testing for CDR Yamaha, trying some cylinders and some Vortex ignitions and stuff back then.
Yeah,
I had a Yamaha 250 and Gary would say to me, hey, try this stuff. And I was trying cylinder heads and I was trying barrels and I was helping out with the ignition curves and stuff and didn't really know, but they were going on Hurley's and Chad Reed's bikes and I was helping doing a little bit of pre-testing. And then I kind of got to use it on my bike as well, for a little amount of time. So I was stoked with that. Ended up riding with Daryl and getting to know him, on a personal level. And we decided to do a trip to Perth. At the time, we had nationals in South Australia, and then we'd travel across to Perth and do a round at Coastal 2 weeks later.
And you were just acting as Daryl's mechanic at the time?
Just a mate. No, I was just a mate.
Yep.
But the reason we did the trip was Manjimup 15,000 was held on that off weekend. So we had South Australia, 1 weekend off.
Yep.
And then the Coastal National. CDR Yamaha wasn't supporting the whole trip to Perth for Manjimup, and Daryl really wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So we jumped in his van and left from Adelaide or Melbourne. We drove to Adelaide, and then we did Manjimup 15,000 together. And I was helping him out with his bike prep, and we did a piston and a clutch, and we were practicing in the sand all week, so we were wearing things out.
Yeah.
And we had a relationship as a mate, and then I was helping him with his bike, and he said, "Oh, you're quite handy. I've got an offer to go to Suzuki Australia. I want you to come and mechanic for me." And I was a okay rider. Definitely wasn't going to make it, or I was doing it for fun and shits and giggles, and just enjoyed it. And my passion was obviously as a mechanic and to better myself there. So I jumped at it. So that got me my first start as a factory mechanic in Newcastle, Sydney.
Yep.
At Factory Suzuki with Jay Foreman. That was 2001.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah. Been in the industry for a while.
Yeah, yep. So that was after completing an apprenticeship. So
yep. So what riders did you work with at Suzuki back in 2001?
we had awesome riders. We had the best people. So it was Daryl Hurley, had Paul Broomfield, and we had John O'Porter.
Yep.
We might have had a kid from New Zealand come across too, Nicky Irwin. Yeah, he came across, did motocross championship.
Yep.
But yeah, two of them riders are no longer with us anymore. And
Oh, no.
they were both, fantastic sportsmen and obviously fantastic people, you know.
That's a shame. Was it through motocross or?
Jono was,
Yeah.
He passed at Coolum, and Paul Broomfield, cancer with him. So
Yeah. That's when it happens on the track, it's a sobering reminder that the risks are always there.
absolutely, yeah.
Yep. So how long were you with Suzuki for?
I was only with Suzuki 12 months.
Yep.
We did a lot of work with the RM 250 two-stroke, but we also built one of the first, which I was pumped to be a part of and had a lot to do with. But it was myself and Phil Tayton from Phil Tayton Racing here in Victoria. He built all the motor, Yoshimura 440 out of a DR 400.
Yeah.
And we built all the chassis, and I made a carbon Kevlar tank, and we moulded all the plastics and the subframe, and we ended up building, like a really slim DR 400. There's a lot of work in it, but we had nothing else to ride at Suzuki at that time. We're racing, YZ 400s or maybe 426s, and then later to come was the CRF 450. So
yeah,
I left at the end of 2001, but they carried on racing that bike for another 2 years.
So they replaced basically the RM 250s, just trying to compete with the four strokes. Is that?
No, so we had two championships back then. We had a four-stroke Thumper National, which they all, like KTM Australia ran 540s.
Yep.
Yamaha had the YZ 426 and YZ 400, and Suzuki had a DR 400, like a farm bike. So, and Daryl knew that he was going to have to race a RM 250 in motocross.
Yep.
And supercross, and a DR in the Thumper Nats. And he said to me, we need to build something. He goes, I can't race that thing and do well. So yeah, we went to work and we come up with it. It was a pretty big thing back in the time. It was it was looked upon across the world, and I don't think it inspired the RMZ 450.
Yeah.
We were definitely we had something decent to race here in Australia on our local soil. So actually, I think we shipped it to New Zealand. I think we did New Zealand Nationals on it one year too.
Yep. That's amazing. That you're getting a bike like that and turning it into a race machine.
He was competitive.
Yep.
Paul Broomfield, he either won or second in the 400 capacity in the Thumpers.
Yep.
Yeah, we were competitive.
So how did they sort of break it down then with between the 250s and the four stroke? Like it's a bit before my time as a rider. So I always sort of saw the two strokes and the four strokes together. In the beginning, but how did that sort of come about?
So in motocross nationals, we were definitely up against Yamaha and KTM.
Yeah,
they were both riding four strokes, and Daryl was still riding an RM 250. But we were still competitive on the RM, but it was the gap was getting bigger and bigger, and I think Daryl had to carry on riding that bike actually till about 2005, I think, before the first RMZ came out.
Oh, wow, because I think when was the Yamaha? I think 98 or 99 was the...
Yeah, 98 was the first production one, 400. Yep. And then, KTM already had, big ball four strokes by then.
Yep.
So Suzuki was 05, I reckon, their first one.
So where did you go to after Suzuki?
Finished up with Suzuki and went straight to Honda Australia and worked for Shane Metcalf. And on the team that year, I think it was Shane, Cameron Taylor, Troy Doran.
Some heavy hitters.
Yeah, and Cody Cooper, I think, come across too for his first stint in Aussie motocross as well. But had a great time there. Had one of the best mentors there in Pip Harrison. He was our crew chief or whatever you want to call them. But he's just an awesome man, and he had a lot of time for myself and pretty much taught me a lot of what I know now.
Yep.
All in that spate of probably only 2 years that I got to really be under his wing. But for many years afterwards, there's a lot of phone calls and a lot of chat, and even still to the day. So
it's good that you can have that sort of mentor that you can.
He's an awesome man. So
and which riders did you work with in particular during your Honda days?
Honda days, I was Shane Metcalf, and then when Shane got hurt, I become my relationship with Cameron Taylor, who is one of my best mates now. You know, we sort of struck up a friendship as well, and through that year, I was sort of, you know, helping Troy, and I was helping Cameron, and Pip was Cameron's mechanic. So I ended up sort of helping out a little bit there with Cameron a bit more, so Pip could sort of, you know, have a look at the, you know, back from the team and just do the team stuff. I like to think I sort of helped out across the board. I was trying to do what I could for everyone.
Yep.
But assigned to, I was Shane Metcalf's mechanic.
And so what years were these?
So Honda was 2002. Yep. So we had we were still on the two-stroke as well, and I reckon later. No, we had both. I think we had both that year. I think that maybe 2002 was the first year of the CRF.
What was sort of the rider feedback between, you know, they were obviously transitioning from the two-stroke to the four-stroke. Did they like it in the early days, or?
Our Honda four-stroke first year was good, yeah. I'm starting to think it was 2003, that bike. But, yeah, the four-stroke was just...
Straight off the bat?
Yeah, straight away, yeah. It's so good, yeah.
So
250, you know, 250 had its place in Supercross still for a little while we were all learning the four-stroke. It was very evident that...
they were going to take over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a completely different riding style though. So
Yeah.
How did the riders sort of cope with that when you were working there?
They were all about it. So they were, I think back then they had the choices of, in the thumpers, they were riding XR 400s.
Yep.
And I believe Michael Byrne was riding one of the XR 650s, one of them big boppers that when Brad McAlpine was working for Honda. So they had them four strokes, which were big and old school four strokes before the CRF sort of come along. So they'd been riding four strokes. Yep. But that model was the first of the, you know, the proper motocross four stroke, and I don't think any rider wanted to ride anything but them, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And you had an opportunity to ride for Honda at one stage too, did you?
Yeah, I lucked in pretty good. Yeah, the boys were having a real bad trot there for a little while. I think Cameron broke a collarbone. I think Troy was broken. I can't remember what Troy had broken. Shane had got a rock in his eye.
Oh, wow.
At a state title.
Yep.
It was muddy, and he'd taken his goggles off and he copped a big rock. And unfortunately, it was probably almost a career-ending injury for him. Like, he really struggled with it thereafter. But he was out with the eye. And, yeah, there was a couple of bikes sitting under the truck that weren't getting used. So I think there was only Cody Cooper, who was only over on sort of like a guest ride.
Yep.
Anyway, so they chucked me on Troy Doran's bike for, I think it was Manham round of, I think it was the Australian Thumper Nats, I believe. Yeah, so I had to spin that round, and got to you know, feel the effects of being under the truck and being a part of it all. It was good.
Quite an experience.
It was a great experience, and yeah, it probably influenced my decision towards the end of the Honda year, for me to put the tools away for a little while and just go riding again for another 12 months. So,
So how did you actually go on the factory Honda?
I went really well. Yeah, that was the problem. I got a really good start, and I hung in there for a little while, and I was riding around some good people, and sort of ran out of puff a little bit, as you do when you're carrying a tool belt instead of training. But there was enough there. I got through the day safe and rode well. Yep. And there was enough there for me to think, you know, maybe I should just have one more year in the Australian Motocross Championship. Yep.
So how did that sort of come about after that?
It was a real tough thing to talk to Pip about. So Pip was obviously the team manager, and we're all talking about the next season, which would have been 2003. And I'm like, oh, Pip, I'm not sure I'll be here. He goes, why? And I said, I think I want to go back and do the motocross and Thumper Nats. And you know, this is Pip for you, you know, like, not that I'm irreplaceable, like they got guys lining up for them jobs, but he helped me to do what I wanted to do. He could have dropped me like a hot pie, but he helped me, and we did a dealership deal through my local Honda dealer, and they set us up with a couple of bikes and a small budget, and I took off in my ute and quick shade and pressure cleaner, and off I went. We did the Australian Motocross Championships that year. Yeah.
And how did you go? What was that whole experience like?
The experience was awesome. You know, you get two bikes and you're like, shit, I've got a practice bike, I've got a race bike, but then you realise, and I'm only working 3 days a week, so I've got time to ride. You only think about the positives, And then there's all the negatives like, hey, I'm riding 3 days a week. It costs a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're traveling and you're using a lot more petrol. And so anyway, yeah, look, it was awesome. You got 2 bikes, but the upkeep on 2 bikes was again. So you're making less money and spending more and more.
Yeah.
But that was the plan. I had that opportunity.
You're committed.
Committed, and so I did it for as long as I could, and it was just got through the season. I probably went over budget a little bit and had to put a bit on a credit card, but I got through both championships and had an absolute ball doing it. So
So you raced all the nationals and the Thumper Nats as well, is that?
Yep. Yeah, I raced all the nationals. I think the further away ones, I think I was, again, as I said, Pip was always keeping an eye on me, and so I drove the race transporter across to the big ones, across to Perth and stuff like that. They let me put my bike and toolbox in, and I'd park the truck up, grab my stuff out of the back, and then sort of hide off in the corner under my own quick shade and do my own thing, let the boys be, and then just pop my stuff back in and drive the truck back home.
Full privateer, except for
I just got transport. So look, they were always keeping an eye on me and helping me out. So that helped obviously to get through the whole championship.
And how did you go?
I went quite well. I had some DNFs. We had a format back then. It was 30-minute moto and then maybe 2 20s back to back or something. And if you get a flat tire, or I think I got a header pipe taken out, and I just didn't have enough time or parts or whatever to get the header pipe back on in 10 minutes or find a header pipe to start with.
You were on the CRF 450, is that
correct? Yep. Yeah, so I had a couple of DNFs, had a couple of decent rounds, but at the end of the championship we sort of stacked up a few points, and I was lucky enough to finish, I think it was 13th in the championship for Australian motocross, and I believe that was leading privateer of the year for that year. And
it's a pretty damn good result.
Yeah, I was pumped. It was all I could, the best of the rest is all you can, really push for.
Yep.
And I didn't know what I was pushing for to start with. It was just something that, upstairs I wanted to do for myself. And
the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and you're just chasing it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we had a lot of fun doing it. So, and the Thumper Nats, I think it was the same. I think I finished 13th in that championship. And again, I think that was, leading privateer as well. So I think I rounded it out with 1 top 10 right at the end of the year. I think it was last round. Yeah, I just squeezed the top 10 for my first top 10. So I was pumped.
I'm hearing these words like luck and,
I think there was a lot. If we looked through, I bet you could probably see someone went over the fence, someone's bike probably stopped. And
you don't luck into a top 10, I think, or a top 13 in a championship. But no, that's an awesome sort of result. And you did that, how many years did you do that for?
I could only afford to do that 1 year, So I did that 2003, and I knew I had a job to go to in 2004. Yep, 2004 I had a job to go to at Red Bull KDM, and a good friend of mine, Colin Ross, had started a satellite KDM team.
Yep.
Just on 125 KDMs, and I knew I had that to go to. So, I sort of spent my pennies, did what I could.
Got your top 10. And
I was out again, so I didn't ride for another couple of years.
With a smile on your face, no doubt.
Yep. And went on to, do what I love and the passion that I have for my craft, which was, building race bikes and race team stuff. So
if I could have asked you at that sort of after that last race as you're driving away, if you could have done another year, would you have done it though?
I don't know. It was these guys, everyone thinks it's a fantastic job for sure. Yeah. But there is aspects to it that are definitely hard, people think it's hard to go riding every day or 3 days a week or whatever, but along with that is risk. Along with that is, depletion of your body or
for sure.
your body parts or injury and mental fatigue and, that numbness of repetitiveness. So the guys that are doing it now and doing it at the top level, they do need props, it is from the outside looking in like anything. It's like, how good's this, geez, they got nothing to complain about. And they don't. It's a fantastic way to make money. But it comes with all the things that any other job comes with. They've got to sort through the same things that we do on a day to day. Yeah. So would I go on? I probably would have gone again. Yeah, sure. We love it. But exactly that. It was at the end of it. I think I was definitely relieved. And again, like, where could I go from there? Yeah. Like, I wasn't going top 7. Like, top 10 result. Like I said, it was probably, if I had a look, there was probably half a dozen bikes that maybe didn't finish or something. But, realistically, I felt I'd reached
Your potential.
my potential. Like I'm just a rider that I can go and I do the best I can with what I got. And I believe driving away from that day, I think that was it.
Yeah, yep.
You know, that was all I had, and I'm not going to get any better, or I'm not going to find any new skills that are going to, you know, push me in any deeper than that. So
yeah, when you've sort of thrown everything at it like that, you know, all your finances, and you've made a plan, and you're as a privateer, and I imagine it's kind of similar in a different way for the factory pros. Like they get the pressure from the expectations of other people that have invested in themselves, and as a privateer, it's like I suppose there's a bit of pressure from the investment that you've put into yourself in that level. Do you feel that, or did you feel that when you were sort of racing, or you were just there having a...
Yeah, definitely having, you know, these other boys that got, you know, a lot of people relying on them. I didn't have that. It was my pipe dream.
Yep.
It was my money, so to speak, other than the help that Honda and, you know, Pip Harrison had thrown my way. So I don't think everyone, as a rider, you put pressure on yourself, no matter whether it's a club day. Like, everyone's got a bit of an idea of where they want to finish.
Yeah, yep.
My expectations probably got a little bit better the more the year went on. I was training with Cam Taylor and riding with him, and he definitely wasn't as forthcoming with information and techniques and helping as what he is now. Like, he's helped me so much in the last, you know, 4 or 5 years, or maybe even more. It's probably been more. But yeah, back then, like, we were just riding together. There was no real helping out.
So what were you doing for training?
Training then, even back then, probably doing all the wrong things, you know. Obviously trying to eat well, and you weren't drinking and all that sort of stuff. But riding was a big thing. It was just time on the bike,
Yep.
you know, for me. Going to the gym, you know, just doing not quite, you know, what we've got now with F45 and stuff like that, but a similar circuit training.
Yep.
You know, just a lot of running, mountain biking, and then, yeah, on the bike. So not a great deal, probably not enough, and not enough of the right things. But I feel that side of the sport has come along a long way.
It's really evolved, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, we didn't know too much. So it's just sort of seeing what Camo was doing and a couple of the other guys were doing, and just trying to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays they've got trainers for on the bike, off the bike, nutritionists. Were the pro level guys like the team riders back then, did they go to those sort of lengths, or was that they were just each doing their own thing?
A lot of the pro riders back then probably relied a little bit on the AIS, and I think they had a little bit to do with, you know, getting their nutrition and stuff from there, some training habits. But I reckon most of them were sort of left to their own devices to either educate themselves and do the right things. But
that's a can of worms.
Yeah, well, you know, there's probably half a dozen maybe that were just relying on natural talent and riding, where, you know, now you just, I don't think it's like that now, but most of the guys now that are under a truck are doing a pretty intensive training program.
Yeah, even the privateers, it goes all the way down.
Well, the privateers are the same, yeah, exactly, yeah. They're trying to chase the rainbow now, so.
So you said in 2004 you had a job to go to after your year of riding?
Yep, yeah, so, yeah, Cole Ross and Leesky put together the satellite KTM team, which was major sponsor was Red Bull.
Yep, so that's Jeff Leesky.
Yep. So I went, where did I move? I moved to Wollongong, and we set up our race shop there, and we had a 2-rider team, 2 young kids on KTM SX 125s.
Yep.
Which was Danny Anderson, Craig Anderson's younger brother, and we had Cody Mackey. Cody Mackey now is a stuntman in the US of A, and he's doing really well, and one of the nicest kids.
And what was your role for KTM?
Team manager and crew chief.
Yep.
Yeah, so I ran and built the bikes and drove the truck, and it was pretty much a
all-rounder.
Yeah, it was a one-man band then, and their dads helped me out. Yeah, so that was another awesome year. You know, I had a great boss in Colin who, you know, funded the team. You know, I was looked after with fuel cards and cars, and it was that was the dream job. Like, if that could have carried on, it only had a very short life as well. It was actually called Craig Anderson Motorsport. Craig Anderson was actually in America, still racing at a factory level over there. And the plan was that when he come home, this team was here for him to get himself involved in. Yeah.
As a rider or as a manager?
Probably as a rider for a couple of years, and then you know, to take it over as a team manager or team owner. But it didn't quite work out that way, and I think when Craig came home, he had a Honda contract, so that kind of didn't quite work with KTM Australia. So the team sort of was short-lived, but through that year we had Greg Schnell from the US come out ride for us, and Greg's an unreal guy, real good guy and good guy to work for, and he did really well for us. We we won Supercross events, and I ended up riding a 250 in the Supercross as well. And he was just over to get better. Yeah, and he rode and slept on my couch for 6 months or so, and lived with us, and yeah, we had a great time. So yeah, that was some really, really good days, traveling, the team, young kids that were just eager to learn, did really well. Yeah, so that was awesome. So that was a really good year. When that team shut down, I was lucky enough to move on to the factory KTM team, which was based in Emu Plains in Sydney.
So did you have to move up there?
No, we travelled from Wollongong. Yeah, so travelled back and forth every day from Wollongong to Emu Plains, where the team was located, and worked there with the Marmonts and Daniel McCoy. Depends what year we're talking, but yeah, we had a lot of riders through that. Them couple of years there at KTM.
So at what point did you transition to having your own business?
KTM Australia for me was 2004, 5, 6. Yeah, and end of 2006 I left.
Yep.
And then went to Northern Queensland mining. And it was up there that SPMX kind of was born, if you want to call it that. I was working a 7-day on, 7-day off roster, and I was bored shitless. So I started tinkering with bikes and suspension up there, and that's where it all kicked off up in Northern Queensland. When I'd finished mining, I'd come back down to Victoria, and slowly introduce SPMX back into Victoria. 2008, and then I think by 2010 we were full time.
Yeah, and you were strictly just mechanicking in the beginning, or did you go straight into suspension? And
mostly suspension, yeah, it was, and probably mechanicking come in after that. So when we had customers come for suspension and say, "Oh, can you do a tire, or can you service the engine?" or we would do that. But even now, we don't go chasing chain and sprockets. But if the customer comes in and says, "Hey, can we do service the fork and the shock, and can you put a tire on and chain and sprockets?"
Yep.
We're like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
But if someone just sort of rang and said, "Oh, can you do chain and sprockets?" We're like, can you just use your dealership or keep it local? But if it's there, we're more than happy to do whatever. Honestly, from the box to the racetrack used to be our old model. And we can still do all of that now. And
I know at some point that you actually had a gig through SPMX where you were doing logistics and transport for privateer riders around the country. How does that fit into to SPMX and your early days with your own business?
Yeah, so that was a good time actually. So we're probably talking 2008, 9 and 10. I reckon 2008 and 9. It was called SPMX Privateer's Choice. So it was a program we put together with a truck and a few bikes. What we did was we had a couple of guys from interstate that would pretty much buy rides off us. So we would take the transporter, and we would have the bikes in the truck all ready to go, and they would pay a fee per round, and they'd come in with gear bags off the plane, race the bike. They'd access to everything at the truck, pressure cleaners and everything to do the job through the day, spare parts.
Did they supply their own race day mechanics? Or?
Yeah, most of them had their dad.
Yep.
Yeah, so most of them flew in with dad, and they did the bikes together. I was there to help out, and we'd normally have one rider locally that I would help out. But that was a deal sort of between SPMX, Berners Suzuki. So Berners has always been pretty heavily involved in getting guys to the races and supporting them. So it's something we did together. It was a bit of fun.
Yep.
And later on, it became a little bit more serious. We had some sponsors come on board, Steve Cromer Products, with so it was Troy Lee backed, and Maxima. And we had guys like Adam Monia, Cade Mosick, Brent Lamman, a couple of, top quality guys.
Definitely.
That come across, and we were able to help them get back to, factory level rides. So that was our thing. We're trying to be the bridge between the van and the team race truck. So
yeah,
and just help them back. Some of them had injuries, and they lost a year, so they lost their ride, but they're still bloody good riders. So we just gave them the opportunity to prove themselves again.
And it's I guess a lot easier than doing it all off your own bat.
Absolutely, yeah, yep. So that was some good times. But with with the paid ride and buying your ride type of deal, the timing sort of coming to that GFC time. Yep. And most of our races that were long in distance now will become on the East Coast. So it was kind of crazy to have a truck driving up and down when most of the riders had to travel in the van anyway. So it kind of, diminished, and we sort of went on to then be a bit more serious and put some riders on. So that would have been 2010, I'd say, somewhere around there, where we're a little bit more serious.
And what sort of results did you achieve with your riders during those years?
Yeah, we won motos, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Unreal.
so we were very competitive, and like I said, for our guys to come from, our little satellite deal onto factory rides, obviously that showed, great potential. So yeah, there was quite a few really good race meetings where, we fared really well, and the bikes were good. Obviously not factory level, but we gave them what we could to get them, back onto that factory
Where
bike.
they needed to go.
Yep.
And,
I still enjoy that part of it now. Like, to be a part of anyone's little journey and help, where SPMX or even myself personally have helped just that little bit, to help them reach a ride or get a ride. And we've done it numerous occasions. It's so awesome. It's just, whether they're, kids that have just been privateers getting a state level ride, with what was, Yamaha junior program, or whether it's, one of our senior riders that, climb into one of the big trucks. It's something that, again, it's nice to be a part of.
Now, on any given day at one of the Victorian race meetings, the amount of SPMX stickers on fork legs, you're obviously having a pretty big impact on local riders on the domestic scene anyway. So I guess after 3 years of supporting privateers like that, you made your $1 million and retired. Was that about how it went?
Yeah. I was late in today, peeling all the barnacles off the yacht, but no, I wish. Yeah, as we spoke about, sort of off air, a lot of this stuff we do, and we justify to ourselves as, being a part of the passion or the love for it. But look, at the end of the day, we run a business, and the business has been operating a long while. We do okay, but the making the millions, I'm still working on that plan.
Yeah, it's definitely not that sort of industry, I think.
I think you're right.
We can joke about it.
Yeah, absolutely we can.
So, as well as the suspension, another thing that you do that I'm really interested in is the get data. What can you tell me about that?
The more you know about the get data, the more you realise how much more there is to know. Look, it's an awesome product. We've been involved with Get since 2013.
Yep.
We've been lucky enough to run it on a lot of the factory bikes here in Australia with the Honda program. Won some championships. Got some pretty cool gadgets. It's Wi-Fi comm units. It's got second injectors, exhaust systems, ECU for 2-stroke, 4-stroke. It's an awesome product. Been lucky enough to travel across to Italy on 2 occasions and train at the factory from the actual engineers who design everything. So that's when you realise how much there is to know about these units. They're amazing, but they're highly technical.
For our listeners that aren't sort of up to speed on sort of some of the latest cutting edge technology, how would you sort of describe what the unit does for the bike?
Yep. So the unit in itself, you can make it as complex or as simple as you like. Now, in 2013-14, obviously, as you know, we were all uneducated and we just didn't know a lot about what these units could actually do. Now we're all more familiarised. A lot of the standard bikes have a lot of the features. So the general public now are a little bit more open to some of the stuff that I was trying to tell them in 13 and 14 that's just blowing their mind.
Yeah. And the electronic fuel injection, like the move to electronic fuel injection in the bike industry, really opened the door for the electronics.
Yeah, there's so many things we can do with it. It's one of the main things. So things that we used to have to open the engine up for to get performance, on 9 times out of 10, we can get great performance with the engine closed just by, fuel and mapping. So it's a really, really good tool. As we mentioned, it's got so many different features, and some of the features that we'd use on the day-to-day, if we sold one to any of our guys in the general public, is obviously the launch control. There's a new RPM dash. So the difference between them two is the RPM dash is used for the start gate, and it acts as like a rev counter. So you can kind of get your RPM absolutely perfect every time.
Yep.
And then sort of move your body position to sort of suit the traction. So that's one unit. It's the black unit that you'll see on a lot of the guys' bikes. And then there's the LC GPA, which that unit is orange. It goes on the front guard. See them as well. So that one is like a multi-function display, and that one will control launch control out of the gate. So you can set that via Wi-Fi through your telephone as well, and it's got 10 different levels of aggression.
It's just next level.
Yep. So that's just in your starting side of things. And then you also have GPA. So GPA stands for Get Power Assist, and it's a form of traction control without using a wheel sensor. We're not allowed to use wheel sensors. That's when things get a little bit tricky with what people are calling traction control in the paddock, etc. The way that unit operates and how it works is a lot like ABS in your motor vehicle. So you can put the brakes on right, and you don't feel the ABS be applied. But if you really push the brake pedal, you'll feel ABS.
Yep.
So the power assist for Get works in a similar way. So if you hammer the throttle, it'll introduce the GPA to whatever level you've set it. We've got 10 different levels. Standard KDM, you have one level of traction control. So you've got 10 different levels to choose from. So 10 being the most, 0 being off for like sand and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then 1 being least amount of GPA. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a really powerful bike and you add a little bit of GPA, say 5 or 6, it can just knock the harshness out of the power.
Yep.
So there's many different, applications for that unit. And then you've, on top of all of that, you've got all your maps and everything in the Wi-Fi comm in your phone. You've got soft maps, you've got sand maps, you've got loam maps, Snappy, and all this stuff's in there, with all your normal stuff for logging of hours and service intervals. So pretty neat product. That's all on the 4-stroke side of things. And then with the 2-stroke, you've got just CDI units that are plug and play, and they're awesome. So mini bike KDMs and right through to YZ250 2-stroke.
I'm going to do a pod in the near future about some of these bike upgrades and how useful they are to both vet riders or C-class riders. And I think the perception, or a common perception, maybe a misperception, is that these upgrades are only for high-level, high-class races. And I did have do have the basic Get unit fitted to my KX450. And one thing that I noticed as soon as I got it, and in the time since then, I actually haven't had any of those moments like where you think the back wheel's going to step out and it seems to catch it just before it gets too far. And one of the things I want to discuss is that I think a lot of these actually make the bike safer, especially when you're riding a 450 and you've got that potential for error if, the little slip of the throttle, or you hit a shiny patch on the track and the bike's going to step out. I think a lot of these little upgrades definitely help even the average rider. And if you're in a position to upgrade your bike and install some of these, I don't think that they should just be thought of as being limited to the high-end sort of racer market. What are your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. So one of the biggest things is, being able to control your engine. So straight away, if you suggest an ECU, straight away it's thought of as performance. And look, it is. The microprocessors in the ECUs are quicker and faster, and they're able to gather the information a lot quicker, and throttle response is better. But along with that are these other features like GPA and stuff like this, where we can smooth the engine. And you're right, I've been, on my own personal bike where, 3 or 4 laps in and, geez, I'm doing a little bit tough, and you can, put on more GPA or flick the map switch.
Yep.
And might have, more programmed into it, and just save your arms a little bit. Once you're rolling around the track, it's not going to be a huge downfall in your lap time at all.
Yep.
But it's going to save your energy and not have your bike pull out of your arms. And like you said, some of the vet guys, they choose to ride a 450, but 450 is a hell of a lot of bike these days. Yeah, it is a little bit of a misconception, but yeah, if anyone's wants to know about it, they can always contact any of us that can talk about ECUs. Richard from Vortex, Dan from MXRP that does Get with us, and also us. So yeah, any of them can give them good information on what it can do for a vet rider and smooth out an engine.
All right, before we continue, we're going to take a quick break just to say a few words on behalf of the sponsors of the Mental for Moto podcast, and to give away 2 pairs of the Works Racing goggles to a couple of our lucky followers. If you like lightweight motocross gloves that maximise feel, check out Death Grip gloves. Right now, Death Grip are offering Mental for Moto listeners a whopping 35% off their Reaper motocross gloves. Just head over to www.deathgrip.store or click on the link below and use the discount code MENTAL23. It's a limited offer, so make sure you place your order today. Do you need a fire extinguisher for your workshop, van or business? Servicing the Greater Melbourne area, Wolf Building Compliance offers a comprehensive range of fire protection sales, maintenance and reporting services. Use the contact form at www.wolfbc.net. Mention Mental for Moto and the guys at Wolf will be sure to look after you. After a new pair of motocross goggles? Works Racing goggles have all the features of a high-end roll-off system at a fraction of the price. The wet weather will soon be upon us once again, and if you're in the market for a new set of goggles, I highly recommend you give these a go. To place your order, simply click on the link below. And thanks to Eddie from Works Racing, I have 2 pairs of Works Racing goggles complete with the Clear Vision roll-off system to give away. We ran a competition on our socials a few weeks ago, and I'll be drawing a random winner right now. And the winner is at Travis_Zoe_303 and at Scott Donahue. Congrats, guys. I'll be in touch in the next few days to get these brand new Works Racing goggles over to you. All right, let's get back to our guest, Steve Powell. So we've covered a fair bit of your time in the industry. There's probably it's probably been a drop in the ocean, and there's a lot more we could talk about. I might have to get you back at some stage, but I'm definitely been interested to hear about how it all started. Like, how did you get into motocross? How old were you, and how did it all come about?
Yeah, well, motocross was a very late thing for me. So obviously riding from an early age. My dad rode and got involved in trials really early. So I was riding a lot of trials and just in the bush with Dad.
Yep.
So
At what sort of age?
Riding around my pop's farm from 4.
Yep.
And then I think trials was early on, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 to 10.
Explains like why you're the Tiger Woods of motocross. That's
Yeah, late start. That's right. And then obviously just rode in the bush with friends. And it wasn't until really late, like I actually got to ride Wonthaggi motocross track, and that's where it all started. So it was on a WR 200. I think from that day I thought, where's this been all my life? So sort of got involved and started racing the Gippy centres.
Yep. And how old were you at that stage?
Maybe early, like 18, 19, 20, somewhere around there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And where did you go from there? Did you keep racing motocross, or did you?
Yep. No,
it was all motocross.
Yeah, it was all motocross from there. Got myself a YZ 252 stroke, and off to the C grade Gippy centres, and pretty much everything in between. Big titles, 2-day opens. Yeah, loved it. I just couldn't get enough.
And did you find success racing motocross, or was it just
C grade? Yeah, pretty early. I went in sort of the starts were daunting, but I got my head around it pretty quick, and C grade I think went well in the Gippy centres, and pretty sure I won C grade 250 class my first year of Vix.
And who sort of supported you through that?
That was all out of my own pocket. Yeah. So look, mum and dad, we never had a heap of money, so whatever I had, and back then I just used to work, and every dollar I had was for the weekends to go riding.
Yep. And what sort of tracks were on the Gippy circuit back in those days?
All the same ones. All the same ones. Yeah. So Wonthaggi and Outram and the Yannicky track and Rosebud, Yarram, all them ones. I remember going to Rosebud for the first time. Everyone remembers their first time in the sandpit.
I haven't been there, and I'm still dreading it. So
I know she's
it's
open Wednesday night. So
it might come this year. I'm planning to do the Gippy series this year, so for the first time. So we'll see how we go.
I suggest you do your homework and come down and have a spin. It's a unique place, but awesome club and one of the best racetracks in Victoria. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I've always struggled in sand, so I might have to hit you up for some bike setup tips before I I get out there.
Yeah, I'll help you out.
For sure. So after finding some success at the C grade level, sort of where did you go from there?
So Motorcycling Victoria obviously grade you, and you get to go up and go to a lower number, which everyone gets excited about, into B grade.
Yep.
But I was able to string a couple of years together, so I did C grade, B grade, and then straight to A grade. Ran one season in A grade. I rode YZ 125 and YZ 250. Won the Gippsland Centre, A grade 125 and 250 in the same year. So I was getting off one bike onto the other.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then did the state titles, and I think I finished third in the Vic titles that year.
At A grade level?
A grade level, yeah. I never got to run the big number 3 plate though. So I then moved on straight from there to Team Suzuki. So that was one of my last races there, and then straight back on the tools. So
after you went back on the tools, your own riding sort of got a bit more sporadic over the years. You had a bit of time off and then time on again, and then Honda. So when did you sort of get back serious into the riding?
Yeah, so 2003 was a serious year, and then again, like you said, dropped it for the tool belt again. And it wasn't until 2007 when I was getting ready for Fink Desert race that I ran in. I think it was 2007. I ran that race, so that was a little bit serious. And then again, come back in 08, and I start back on the tools again and run my own little team and set up. And riding for me probably wasn't until, come to think of it, maybe 2013 or 14 before I started putting some laps together motocross wise. Even then, I was 2014. I was working for Team Honda again, Dakotas and the Penrite team. So
was that under your Reeve at that stage?
Yeah, it was. Yep. So that was 3 years, I think. Maybe I did 14, 15, 16 there, whilst running my own business and running his setup and all the boys' bikes for off-road and supercross.
Yep, and you were just racing the local scene still around Victoria?
I reckon I was doing a little bit of riding, but I think maybe I got ready for maybe vets, the national vets or something, but definitely wasn't doing the riding I'm sort of been doing of late. Yeah, so a little bit sporadic, like you said, right through that area, and 16, 17, 18 before I start putting some laps together.
Well, we'll get back to that. In our pre-show notes, you did make some notes about the Fink Desert race in 2007. Tell me a bit more about that. That sounds like you had an interesting time. Yeah,
look, the Fink Desert race it's its own natural beast. So you'll hear so many stories about anybody who's involved as a spectator, or if they get the opportunity to ride or drive or whatever they want to do. But I got the opportunity one year and I took it with both hands. So another little project with Colin Ross and Jeff Leask.
So you're on a KTM?
I ran a KTM 450 SXS. It was just a bit of a fun trip that we did together. Went through all the scrutineering and the prologue and the race. So we had a good time. We prologued okay, 26 or something. And
had you had experience with the Fink Desert race before that?
Plenty watching. Again, with KTM Australia, we're involved in motocross, supercross, Fink, super moto-dad. So we were up there doing testing with the riders. We'd had success with the other riders, so I got to see it from the sideline, which made me want to get involved. But it was definitely different to ride. Thoroughly enjoyed it whilst I was doing it. The result I didn't get in the end. I was coming home pretty strong in like 13th with 50 Ks to go.
Yep.
And we just had a bit of a mechanical failure. We'd cracked a piston, and the bike, obviously lost all compression, so we were done. But I'd never been back. It sort of broke my heart a little bit. The boys that do that event, they are special.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of guts, a lot of risk, and a lot of skill. It's not just flapping on the bike at them speeds and hanging on. There's a lot that goes into it. Yeah, I just don't think I was ready to go back and risk it all again,
Yeah, I've only ever seen the Fink Desert race on TV or on online coverage, and just watching the guys like go full throttle through the sand rollers, and like it's just full commitment.
Yeah.
How far ahead can you sort of see, or how do you know what's coming?
Yeah, the boys put a lot of time in, and even back when I did it, so 2007, I was lucky enough. We had helicopters and I was lucky enough to fly, I think the first, would have been 50 or 60 Ks, and try and memorize it. And you spend a lot of time up there. The guys spend a lot of time up there. They know everything. They know every bump and where to be. And that's why they spend so much time, because the event is dangerous. The speed they're going at, they're going fast, like the focal point is a long way away.
Yeah. It comes up quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're doing fast speeds. So, for me, what I got was awesome. And I think I was for my first one, I think I was in pretty good position. But yeah, that's that race, like you ask anybody and they've had so many heartaches and breaks and, whether it's machine or injury.
Yeah, yep.
But you keep coming back and keep coming back. But I haven't come back. It's, it got me, and it was, I haven't been back. So
it's definitely
still a great highlight and a great event that's in my bucket that I have done. But I wouldn't. I'll trail ride it every day of the week, but I won't go back and race it.
It's definitely a different animal. I mean, my focal point's always been motocross, and so I don't understand that sort of desert racing as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it just looks insane.
Yeah. It's a thrill. Yeah, and that's what you get addicted to. It's a thrill. It's fast and it's great fun, but
High consequence as well.
It comes with a lot of risk.
So going back to the beginning of your vet racing career, you did a bit of racing overseas for that as well?
Yeah, like everybody, once you get to our age, you pick a few events here and there, and the Australian Vet Championships has been, something I've done for quite a few years. I got to go to Manjimup and Coolum a couple of times, and Conondale, and compete in the vet races, which I've done pretty well at. But yeah, always, it's the Glen Helen, it's the World Vets. In, 2018, I got the opportunity to go over, and I took it and spoke to a couple of buddies of mine, and they were all G'd up, and in the end I flew out on my own, and I didn't care. I was going. So
how'd you organise a bike over there?
Again, good friend Daryl Hurley. So him and I were like, well, I'll go if you go, and I'll meet you over there. So we, both of us booked it all, and Daryl was lucky enough. He's won it a couple of years, so he had a bit of street cred, over there. So we contacted Suzuki, and we actually organised a couple of bikes, and I was going to hire one off Suzuki. And we got over there, got 2 brand new bikes, and we rode them for 2 weeks, going to all the tracks in California and riding and just living that dream. And then obviously get to race, Glen Helen at the World Vets. And we prepped our bikes and made them all nice and returned them to Suzuki. And they were pumped with our effort. Daryl won on his, and I finished 4th in the Pro 35, I think it is.
Yep. And so did you race against guys like Chris Kiefer and Mike Brown? And
that year was no Mike Brown.
Yep.
There was, so Hurley won, I reckon 3rd. I reckon Chris Kiefer was 3rd, and 2nd was Kurt Nicole. Yep, Kurt Nicole got 2nd on the KTM, and I got 4th.
Just off the podium.
Just off the podium, but you know what?
What an experience.
I was that pumped with that result. I whole shotted the last moto, and I almost led for a complete lap, and I got my photo in Motocross Action or whatever. So
that's amazing. That's definitely one for the record book.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got proof that I got a whole shot with Glen Helen and all that in the back. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Glen Helen's a pretty iconic track. How does it sort of compare in real life when you're out there racing? I think they say that the World Vets, they get about 1,000 different riders on the track each day. Like that's not an exaggerated figure. That's about how many riders they have with all the classes. And so what's the track actually like when you're there?
Yeah, it gets beat up. Absolutely beat up, yeah. And the hills are super big. You just can't explain it until someone's been there, and they're fast. So the whole track it's really good. It's Glen Helen. Like, people will bag on it or the material, but at the end of the day, you're at Glen Helen, and it's where you want to be. It's where I want it to be. And, the track could have been whatever it was. It didn't matter. But we had a good racetrack that day, and it did form up. It was rough. Like, my hands were done. Like,
yeah, I can imagine. Square edgy. Did it get sort of dry by the end of the day?
Yeah. And just sending it down that big hill, we got to do the whole hill that year. And, it was good. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed just every part of it. The first turn, the banked turn, the hills. It's a lot slipperier than it looks.
Yeah, yep.
A lot of the tracks are, it looks so grippy, but just a fantastic weekend. Yeah, got to share it with Hurls, and he won. So it was a bloody good trip.
Good time.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back, actually. Can't wait.
You're going to do it again?
I will do it again.
Yep. Do you have a plan in mind or a year in mind?
I'd like to say this year, but I have a lot of things this year. So I'm doing the Cape York tour for my birthday in September, and I think I've got to be end of October. I've got to be in the US. So it's a big commitment. So.
How does the US racing scene, like, you've obviously done a lot of racing in Australia and even other places, but how does the US racing scene sort of compare?
Haven't done anything domestically over there, just the World Vets. Yep. So the whole 2 weeks I'm there, everyone's prepping for World Vets. There's, people from all over the world, and you go to the practice tracks, and there's a bunch of old blokes that are, getting all serious, and it's cool. It's like we're all there for the same reason. I got to meet a lot of them, and we stayed at the time. It was called MX Heaven. Stefan, his name was. And a bloody good spot to stay, like a real nice house, all set up to have multiple people. We had a chef come in, and we had, riders come in and greet us and, sit around the table and eat dinner with us. So that whole atmosphere, was awesome. And in that house was guys from Denmark, Germany, Sweden, New Zealand, Tasmania. We had guys from everywhere. So you'd go do your riding, everyone had shit talk and carry on there, and then you go home and do the same thing. It was a good part of the holiday was staying there. Like my suggestion would be, and I don't know how many of these are around anymore because COVID really knocked them around, but if you're going to go with a bunch of guys or whatever, if you can get into one of them camps or teams or whatever they want to call them, the hire ride, that you stay with a bunch of blokes from different countries and, shit talk for the whole 2 weeks, that's a big part of it, a real good part of it.
Yeah, that makes the experience.
Absolutely did, yeah.
For sure. So what other places around the world have you ridden and raced?
New Zealand, recently, just only a couple of weeks ago, went over to do one of their international races that called Woodville GP. So I went over there, and again, my buddy Hurls, he's come good, and he had a Kawasaki KX450. That's his own personal bike, but he's got a bit of a tennis elbow injury at the moment. So it was sitting there brand new in the showroom that hadn't been used. So he invited me over to do the event, and yes, I went over there. Unfortunately, we got severe weather. Yeah, the race ended up, I think it got 71 mil on the Friday night, before the event on Saturday, Sunday. So it got called off. And I think since I've left New Zealand, like they've just had earthquakes and landslides and just crazy weather. So I still got to do plenty of riding over there, practicing, but didn't get to do the race. And that's about all. I got to ride in Italy and stuff when I went over with Get. We had test riders, and we rode a couple of local tracks in Italy. That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever ridden any of the e-bikes?
Yeah, I rode an Alta, but that was here in Australia.
Yep. Was it the Redshift? It's called
yes,
the Redshift.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was the best one. Yep. So I rode that at Traralgon actually.
And what was that like? That experience?
Yeah, it was definitely. It's just like, wow, where's this going? And super keen to ride this new Stark Varg. A local dealership is signed up to be one of the agents. Yep. So yeah, the moment that they arrive on the floor, I think him and I will be out to have a ride on one for sure. I can't wait for that experience. But I think the Alta was a little bit clunky compared to now. Obviously, technology, it's so quick. Everything's happening so quick. So I think they're a lot better now for sure.
Yeah, there's been, obviously in the industry, there's been a bit of resistance to the electric bikes, both from a fan base point of view and as well as some of the teams that haven't got their own electric bike technology up to speed. How do you think electric bike technology is going to impact the industry in the years to come?
Yeah, look, I think the main 4 or 5 that you're talking of, they're ready.
Yep.
They're just waiting for someone else to do all the hard work, I reckon. So I reckon everyone's ready. The general public will jump on board once we can see them, experience them.
I think so too.
They're not going to be for everyone.
Yep.
But they're going to be for a lot of people, and they're going to probably allow dirt biking to still happen in city areas.
Yep.
We've probably got more chance of riding these bikes in a city suburb and maybe creating new tracks or new areas that we can ride in, whether indoor, outdoor, whatever it may be. But I think it's only good. I don't think the gasoline engine is out. I think we're going to be riding them for a fair while yet. But, I welcome the technology and I welcome, the experience.
Yeah, I mean, everyone that I know that's ridden one reckons they're a lot of fun and definitely a different animal.
Mm-hmm.
Without the engine braking and without the clutch and without the gears. But I definitely see a good future in that sort of technology. I'm just super intrigued to see how it's going to play out, and I thought I'd pick your brain. You're having so much experience in the industry. Do you think they'll end up racing the classes against each other, or the electric technology will have its own class?
Look, they're really pushing. They want to race gasoline engine. I don't know where that's going to end up. Like, I think they're really facing some tough hurdles at the moment, but I hope it all works for them, and the more the merrier. The more people, the more teams, the more anything we can get involved in our industry, it's only going to be a good thing.
No, definitely. Looking towards the future, so what does 2023 have in store for Mr. Steve Powell?
We'll have to wait and see. It's a moving slide. Look, obviously plenty of work. We've always, so SPMX will keep me super busy. We've got some new models, so we're sort of doing our homework on them. couple of events. Personally, I want to race the Victorian Off-Road Championship this year. Raced it last year and had an absolute ball, met some great people, new customers and clientele. So that was awesome. And tough work, 3 hours on the Saturday and then back it up with up to, 5 to 7 sprints on the Sunday. So really looking forward to that. Yeah, did New Zealand. So got Cape York, and then we'll see what's left in the biscuit tin to see whether I can get to the US. Really want to, but it's a financial thing.
And you've stepped it up as well, being a bit of a moto-dad.
Yeah. So all this could come crashing down, all my dreams at the moment. So, the young fella's really got the bug at the moment. So he did his first state title on the weekend, and he's competing in the Gippsland Region Series. So he's got himself a Gas 65 and 85 small wheel. So...
Your riding will take a back seat.
Yeah, I think it might.
No, fantastic. Well, if he takes after his old man at all, I think he'll do all right.
Yeah, we'll see. At least he's got a good start anyway. So
yeah. Do you see a bit of yourself in him?
He's way better than what I was at his age.
Yep.
So I just like that he's having fun.
That's the main thing. Definitely.
Yeah, it's really important when he wanted to race. Like it was a long time that he had to ask me, and kind of ignored him to the point where until he asked his mother or told his mother that he wanted to race. So for me, I wanted to let it, sort of blossom behind and make sure that it's what he wanted to do. I didn't want to push him into what I do.
Yeah.
I love it so much, and I just want him to enjoy it as much as I do. And it probably took a little while for that to happen, and he's really enjoying his riding, and he's already realised, there's a few heartbreaks on the way and, a few little bumps and bruises, but he really enjoys it. So to watch him do something he likes and reach his little goals is awesome. So I think that's why all us, I say us now, but I think that's why all the moto dads get around it.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of life lessons in motocross, as we've spoken about so many times. You get to feel a lot of things, and I think it sets you up in life. If you do moto right, I think you do life right.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, like you said, so many life lessons about dealing with adversity and
absolutely
battling through hardship and discomfort, and
injury, and
challenging yourself and dealing with pressure, budget. That's I think that's the underlying theme. Whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old, the budget part's always the challenge. No, well, it's been absolutely awesome having you in studio, Steve. Yeah, hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, no worries. I'm always available, mate. Yep.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you both in the shop and on the track in 2023.
Yep.
I'll probably see you coming up behind me as you come to lap me on some of these Gippy races if you decide to do them. So
well, I think you're going. You're starting to find your feet now. So it might be a bit tall for me to get round you now.
No, we'll see.
Thanks, anyway, Pete. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Cheers.
And that just about wraps up this episode. Big thanks to Steve Powell for coming on to chat. I've got about 1,000 more things that I'd like to speak to him about, so we'll definitely try to get him back on again in the future. With the Aussie Pro MX season about to kick off, our next show will be a review of round 1 in Wonthaggi, which is happening this coming weekend. I'll once again try to get a few riders on to give us their thoughts too. Don't forget to check out our website, mentalformoto.com, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you like what we're doing, want to share any thoughts or feedback related to this episode, are interested in coming on as a guest or supporting the show as a sponsor, please reach out via the contact form on our website or DM me via one of our social profiles. Big thanks again to our sponsors, Death Grip Gloves, Works Racing and Wolf Building Compliance, and of course to you people for listening. Until next time, see ya.